Hey all, this is Nightmare logging in, and today we're going to talk about Defender Diversity. Now, Defender Diversity was added in 15.0 along with the new map, and it replaced basically Defender kills as a factor. And unfortunately, the idea was that it would be the main factor when there's as a tiebreaker. Now, let me explain right now, I'm not against Defender Diversity as a factor. Defender Diversity was needed because otherwise you just get a lot of Hyperions, a lot of Magics, a lot of Spider-Men, Rhinos, etc., and gets old very fast. But the problem with Defender Diversity is that it did replace Defender Kills. Now, Defender Kills was basically about how well you placed your defense. And the more you used health, the more you used revives, the worse you would do. And you'd be giving points basically to your opponent. And that was a good thing, frankly. Now, fact of the matter is, without that, any team can use as much health and much revives as they can to get 100%. And not only that, but a rich team, one who spends a lot, the whales, could now have a situation where they can get full Defender Diversity at 50 without any problem, because frankly they could buy all the things you need to get those characters and also to get as much as you can on the board. I mean, you don't want to see someone with the 50 best characters in the game getting it. And then there comes another next problem, because Defender Diversity can be at 150, and the fact that a lot of teams can get 100%, especially Tier 1, Tier 2 teams can get 100% every time, then you get the next factor, and that's where a big problem, at least in my eyes, is, and that's Defender rating. Basically, the higher your Defender rating, the better your score. The problem with that, of course, is that, frankly, let's say you have a 7 million team facing a 10 million team. Now, a 7 million team basically had to work harder and do better in order to keep up with the 10 million team. So why should they be penalized for being a lesser team? Again, this is something that basically helps rich teams over the poorer teams. And it becomes a matter of money, how much money you have, and not so much how much skill you have, which is every game should always be about skill. So I'm not happy about that. I said I'm okay with the Team Defender Diversity, but they need to bring back Defender Kills to make this a skill-based game. I mean, I don't want to call this, well, actually, I do want to call this to some extent a money grab. But hopefully they will get the message, because a lot of people aren't happy with this, and they will change it. First of all, they need to make it a little harder. I mean, AW you didn't get as many 100% with AW as you do now. The fact is, it's simpler now, so they need to make it a little harder, or even maybe a lot harder in some cases. So it's not a matter of 100%, 150 defender ring, and I mean 100% defender diversity and then defender ring. It needs to be rethought out, basically. This was not a very good job. It wasn't well thought out, well tested. So that's something that definitely needs to be changed. Now, since we have to deal with the war we have and not the war we want, so to speak, the question is, what do we do about defender diversity? Now, let me be clear. If you're not getting 100%, defender diversity isn't as important, because that's not likely going to be the tiebreaker. The tiebreaker is how far you can go versus how far your opponent goes. Now, at the highest tiers, you're going to get 100% most of the time, and your opponent's going to get 100% of the time. So that's when defender diversity becomes extremely important. Now, let me say this. This does not mean you put your worst characters in to get defender diversity. You shouldn't have any Lokis, any Colossuses, any Iron Patriots, etc., etc. Those they shouldn't be included. They're bad, or Spider-Gwens for that matter. They're bad characters. They have no business even being in the game. So, what do you do to create better defender diversity? Now, the first thing you can do is you have to use nodes to your advantage. Give you an example. Let's say you have an enhanced special 1 node. Now, what you can do in that case is a Yellow Jacket is fine there. A Yellow Jacket that may not be the best defensive character becomes a great defensive character in that one because it's hard to evade. A War Machine that isn't easy to evade on that node is actually far stronger. War Machine usually wouldn't be included, but because of the enhanced SP1 nodes, it can be included. Now, there's also a matter of the enhanced special 2 nodes, armor break nodes, and all those other types of nodes. So you need to know what nodes are in there and what specific characters excel at. A character that may be lousy under normal circumstances could be actually a top character if placed correctly. So that's something you have to keep in mind. Second, how do I put this? You need to learn to think like an attacker and not be so obvious. To give you an example, if I see skill and armor on a node, I know it's going to be pretty much Civil War Black Panther. If I see Mystic and I see if I see Power Gain, I'm going to know that's probably Magic. Now the idea is don't be so obvious in those situations. And here's why. If you're obvious about it, people can just use the best attacker against them. When you know what to expect, you're going to use the character that is best against that character. You don't want them to know what you have. You don't want to be so obvious. You want to spread it out, use things that they're not expecting. That's how you win the game, is by not being so obvious. To give you an example, yesterday, most of my characters were Gwenpool, Wolverine, and Magic. Now there was a node with the signs on it. The node was Armor Break and Stun Immune. Now, when you see Stun Immune and Armor Break, I mean, you're thinking most likely it's going to be the Spider-Man, Miles Morales in particular, or it's going to be possibly a Rhino. And in this case, the best character I could use in that case was Gwenpool, a character who uses bleed. Instead, they outsmarted me. What they used was an Abomination, which is something I didn't expect, in which they tricked me on, so I didn't use the right character on it. And it crushed my Gwenpool. And even if a character like that doesn't crush you, it still would do a lot of damage. So you should be using characters that people don't expect. If you can find a node, for example, that bleed character would use, you use an Abomination, you use a Cable, something that they don't expect, and that allows you to put your Spider-Man or your other characters somewhere else, and that helps with your defend adversity. So that's something to keep in mind. Let's say you then you make them think it's a Magic. Well, what are they going to use if they think it's a Magic? They're going to use Magic or Abomination, or Archangel to fight against it. And those are good characters against Magic. So instead of using Magic, use Mordo, who also uses Power Gain, and who they're not going to expect so much. It's going to create the surprise, and every time you surprise your opponent, you just gained an advantage over your opponent. That's how you get your kills. I mean, if you're always obvious about it, and they always predict it, they're just going to use their best character against you. And that's not going to work for defend adversity. So that's something to keep in mind. As I said before, also, Mystic Dispersion. A Magic character that may not be the best defensive character can be great if you have high Mystic Dispersion. I mean, because frankly, with Mystic Dispersion, you can get to your threes much faster, and you can surprise your characters. I mean, characters that I'm not saying use a Loki in this situation, but there's other Mystic characters that maybe you don't necessarily want to use, like that maybe is not a top defender like Ghost Rider. And with Mystic Dispersion, you're getting those threes every time. You're getting those twos. I mean, you're just creating specials all the time, and that's something that can be an advantage to you. So that's something to keep in mind too. You also have to realize also that evade counts as a buff according to Mystic Dispersion. So every time you evade, you're also given the Mystic Dispersion. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Finally, and this is something people should always do, before an alliance war ends, you should always be checking how your characters did. I mean, you should always check to see how many kills they got. If they didn't get kills, I mean, the total kills, you should always be keeping that in mind. And if you find a character that isn't getting kills in that spot, move it or replace it with someone else who is more likely going to get kills. Don't just leave a character there every time that you know isn't going to get killed. I mean, and on the other hand, if something is going to kill regularly, keep on doing it. And not only that, but tell your leaders in your battle group about it. Conversation is very important. If they know that works on that node, well, guess what? It may work on nodes similar as well. And other people can use it for their advantage. So these are some ideas on how to handle diversity. And basically, I wish everybody the best. And hopefully, as much as we hope it will change soon, they'll fix some of this stuff. No one knows. So for now, I hope this helped you. And this is Nightmare logging off.